I know PB Winterbottom's going to draw a lot of comparisons to Braid and to some other time-changing XBLA type games, but
by time changing you mean like that's the main mechanic, is that you manipulate time in order to reach your various objectives and goals, right?
But it works in a very different way for PB Winterbottom.
Well, actually both games tell a very specific story. It's very linear. You go through the different levels, and as you go you learn more things about your main character, and there's an actual culmination at the end, which is the climax of the story. Do you think it has that same kind of like wow moment that Braid does?
Well, Braid, it seemed from the very beginning, was trying to be more of an artsy game, more of this is something to make you think, this is something to have games as art. Whereas PB Winterbottom is much more, of a game. Like your main goal is to get pies. What you're collecting doesn't matter.
It's a very good goal.
It's a fun goal, but it doesn't really matter what you're collecting. The whole setup is just for these puzzles. Whether you're collecting stars or little shine sprites, like none of that matters. What matters is getting to the end of this level and the mechanic. It's not something to make you think about it. The whole time mechanic isn't this visceral mind melding type thing. It's something to make it a game. It's something to make it fun.
First time I saw it at GDC, it was just a little indie project with like no publisher, and immediately the art style stood out to me. It's just this very whimsical black and white kind of art. It's very stylized.
Yes, style.
Yeah. But it's kind of kooky, Even the objective, to just get pies. It's very ridiculous, but it's fun.
The reason why I feel it is such a terrific game is because every puzzle seems made for multiple solutions. It's not like Braid where they say, it's kind of how you think about it. There are different ways that you could solve this. In Braid there was always one way to get to the end. There's one way to solve this. But PB Winterbottom, no matter how hard the puzzle was, and there were one or two where I felt stumped. It felt like I'm just gonna barely make it through this puzzle. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, I feel like maybe I'm just not thinking about it right. I think that there's got to be another solution. There's got to be a better way to do this. And I'm sure that on YouTube, there'll be tons of videos of people playing through this game and just blowing me away with how quickly they're able to just get to the end of it. And I would have never thought of that.
It seems like you can kind of brute force your way through them. You can do them the non-elegant way, but you can still get through it. You can still get to the rest of the story. You're not gonna ever just kind of be, roadblocked from continuing. Whereas in Braid, you might have come up against a part of the game where you just couldn't figure it out at that moment in time. You just have to stop the game and then come back later and hope that you had that clicking aha moment.
No matter what, you're going to be able to make it through the main game with no problem. And if you want more out of it, there are those challenge levels that unlock as you go along at the bottom. That how quickly can you do this? How few clones can you use? That just adds to the fun for me, but it's never something necessary.
How long did it take you to beat the game? It didn't seem like it was that long.
It really couldn't have been more than 2 or 3 hours to get through.
Which, to me, I think that's a pretty good size, especially if you're going to go back and do all the challenge modes and things like that.
Well, if there's really any problem with the game, it's that it's too short. But at the same time, I don't have a problem with that. I love a game that I can sit down and get through in one setting. Like Portal. Portal was one of my very favorite games. Or like Braid, which, maybe an hour and a half, you're through the entire thing. And PB Winterbottom does that same thing for me. I sat down and I got through the entire thing in one setting, and it felt like an accomplishment. This is definitely a big contender for DLC Game of the Year. I know it's February, I know it's early, but I know that this is a kind of game that's going to stick in my head for the rest of the year, and I'm really excited to see what other kinds of games that these guys come up with. The developer, what was their name?
Odd Gentleman?
Yeah, the Odd Gentleman. This is their debut game, and it really excites me that you have a developer like this coming up with these interesting ideas and that you have publishers willing to back it. And I want to see what's the next thing they're going to do.
Yeah, I hope it does well, just so that we get more of these types of games.